Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of my Pacific Northwest travel album. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, if you missed it, I had a part 1 video, so I will link that in the description box below because I highly recommend watching that one first. And in that video, I went through all of my supplies and sketched out my initial plan for this Pacific Northwest album. In today's video, we're going to be starting actually putting this album together, which for me, I think is the hardest part, is to transition from the plan to the actual making. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to start with doing some overview things. I have some of the Seattle stuff here first because that's the first section. And I have my album here just as a reminder. I'm using this album. It came with some page protectors in here. I'm not going to use most of these. I'm going to use some page protectors. I have 2 in my plan here. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and make these intro transparencies for each section. And then I'm going to start kind of laying out the album. So what I'll do is I'll put the page protectors in and slip things into pockets and kind of get it initially set up for what I have so far for my 4 sections. So I have 4 sections. I have the 4 kind of destinations. Really, I had 3 that are going to be the same, which is Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco, which were normal destinations where I went to each place for 3 days. And then I had one last section, which is going to be a few different things. I spent a day in Yosemite, and then I visited my parents, where I spent 2 days there, one with them and one going to Sequoia National Park. So I am going to kind of put those together. I'm not entirely sure exactly how I'm going to organize that one, but I have an initial layout that's definitely going to be followed for at least the first 3. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. The other thing I'm going to do in today's video is start my photos. I've printed a couple here, but I am going to film some of my computer process to talk you through my process for printing photos, because what I'm going to do is actually start getting these cut out and put things in the album. I am so sorry if there's noise in the back room. Pumpkin has the zoomies right now and he's running around the hallway. So anyways, I printed a couple of photos already for Seattle. This is going to be my first photo. And I just wanted to show you this quickly before I move over to that computer to do the photo process, because what I did is I sketched out here, or wrote down here, I need 3 photos that are 7 by 8.25 for each destination for this one, and this one. I need 2 4 by 6. I need 1 14 by 8.25 and 4 3 by 4 photos. And those are the minimum. I also have a photo strip of food photos and a layered template here. And then I'm probably going to also have some additional inserts for each destination. I also have all my ephemera that I need to include in some way, which I have not yet figured that part out, which is totally fine. At this point though, what I'm doing on the computer is narrowing down my photos and picking my main ones. So I picked this photo to be my intro to Seattle. And then I picked this because I do want to have a full spread, and I don't yet know what I'm going to do to embellish this. It might be something different for each destination, but for Seattle, obviously it had to be the skyline. I got this gorgeous skyline photo, and we had perfectly clear skies, so it was super nice to be able to grab this photo, and yeah, I love it. So I printed those to start, and a couple other photos. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to do a little bit of the crafting part and set up the basic outline in my album, so I have some tangible stuff in the album that I can see and build in. And then I will go over to my computer and work on that photo process and share with you how I'm going through printing my photos. And then I'll come back to my desk and get some of those photos slipped into the pockets for Seattle at least. I am probably not going to film the entire process of this album. That is just too much. It would be hours and hours and hours, and would also make the process really, really long for me. I have done another album like this on my channel. It was for a trip to Dubai and Doha. And if you want to watch that one, I will link it in the description box below. I have a playlist for it, but I'm thinking I'm going to do something similar for the videos for this album as I did for that one, where I will share parts of my process. I will talk through parts of it. I will share some sped up, and then other things will just be done. Of course, my final video will be a complete album flip through. So definitely you will see everything at the end. So don't worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on a combination of music and voiceover as I start setting this up. I might do a little bit of talking too, just to initially pick things out and getting some stuff basically in the album. And then I'm going to move over to my computer where I will share a little bit of my photo process before I wrap this one up. Okay, so what I did is I pulled these out, and these were in the individual bags for each destination, which I set up in the last video if you wanted to learn more about that process. But I pulled out the ones that I have to start each page, because what I'm going to do is put this on top of a transparency. And I have some transparencies here. Not all of these are transparencies. I might also need to go into my stash, but I'm going to see. So I need 5 transparencies. So I've got those. I have this one already has holes punched, and it is a little smaller, but I think that's okay. I have this one, and I think that's it. These are like vellums or other papers. So I think I want to do transparency. So this is only 4, and I do need a 5th one, so I'm probably going to need to go find something else. But let me just pair these first. So the out of office, I think, makes sense for Seattle because it was our first stop. And this one makes sense for San Francisco because it's the most like grid-like to me. And this one makes sense for Yosemite. And then this one I will do for Portland, which means I need one more. So I'm going to go look in my stash and see what I have that I can work with for my last destination. Okay, I have a whole stack of transparencies, and some of these are from Ali Edwards, so they're the same size. Others are from Cocoa Daisy, so they are narrower. Well, I would love to use some of these Cocoa Daisy ones. I think I'm going to go with one of the Ali Edwards ones because they are a little bit bigger. And I think this green one actually is perfect. So I'm thinking I'm going to actually just use that. I do have so many options here, and I get these transparencies from Cocoa Daisy. They're in the stationery kit, and I get one every month. So I have so many here that I need to use. So if you didn't get this collection or something like that, this would have been a great way to use these. I think I'm probably going to use them in setting up like my stories album next year because there's so many just beautiful ones in this stack. I have used some obviously, but these are just the ones that have not yet been used. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to put these away. Okay, so now I have all 5 of my transparencies here. I have this alpha set that was in this new collection that is a little bit of a smaller alpha, so I think it's small enough that I can write my titles on these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on music or voiceover while I get these stamped out. I'm going to stamp out my titles, adhere them down, punch my holes, and put these in the album as my initial start for each of the sections. Okay, so it's another day. This is not a do in one day process. And I finished the dividers and I put them in here with page protectors. So I followed my formula here. Let me just pull this to the side. So for each destination, I've got my title page, and then I have an insert with 4x6 pockets and an insert with 3x4 pockets. The rest of these are outside the page protectors, so there's nothing to put in here yet. And I put it for all of them, even though I'm not sure that I have it for the last one. So what I did for the last one, because this last section, so those are the 3 cities. And then we have Yosemite, which was just a day. And then we have Visalia, which has less because I only have 3 or 4 of these cards. So I could use the digital and just make another one, but I don't need it because Yosemite and Visalia are kind of combined. They just have their own dividers. So I will kind of adjust my formula when I get there. But what I'm going to do now, I think, is put together some of these cards and put cards into the pockets so that I have kind of like a base in here. So let's go up to Seattle first and I'll show you what I'm talking. So here's my Seattle bag. So I'm just gonna, oh, it's unzipped. I'm just gonna pull all my Seattle supplies out to start. I will end up putting a lot of them back, but for now, I'm just gonna pull these out. So we have some stuff here that's outside the page protector. I don't have a space to put that, so I'm not gonna put it anywhere right now. And then we get to our first divided page thing. We have this goes right in here. And then on the back, this goes right here. So we got those slipped into the pockets. And then in the 3x4s, the only thing that we really have are some 3x4 cards. So this one, I have designated a spot there. And that I have designated a spot, but these ones I have not. And I'm thinking I'm gonna put these on this 3x4. And this is special to this destination. So I've got that. Okay. And then we'll move on and we'll do the same thing for all of the destinations for the things that are already just in the album as a starting place. So I'm going to go ahead, put some music on and get these all done. And then I will pop back on. Okay, so I have a very loose base in my album here. And what I'm going to do next, partially because this was such a long time ago and I don't remember off the top of my head what happened when, I'm going to put these cards together. So what I'm going to do for these is I'm going to add a date stamp for the 3 main days in each destination. And then I'm going to list out our itinerary and I'm just going to hand write this on here. So I'm going to do each of these and I'm going to use my journal as a jumping off point for that. So I have my daily journal from this trip. And this is where I have the main stories of what happened because I brought this with us and I did all this journaling on the trip. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on a combination of music and voiceover and fill these out as the next step in my album. And then I will move to the computer and talk you guys through my photo process to start getting the photos in the album. Okay, so I finished getting these cards in here, and I used my journal, and I have some other notes that I took quickly in my Hobonichi weeks at the time while I was traveling, just to kind of make sure I didn't miss anything. And I used that to kind of fill out these. So I have I don't have anything for our travel day, which was before we got to Seattle, which I might do some kind of travel story with a cover. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do with it. I'm thinking maybe I'll use this, but I'm not sure. That might be too much with this. So we'll see. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do for the cover. I also could use like this. So there's this pocket, which is like this. I could put it upside down and then seal it and put something inside, or I'm not sure. Or I wish these things didn't have the holes punched, because there's this tag, and I really wish it was backwards so I could put like a photo and then use this, but you can't flip it upside down because of the word. I guess I could put something new there and cover this to do my cover. I'm not sure what I'm exactly going to do for my cover, so I'm not focused on that yet. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, oh wait, so what I was saying was I skipped the first day, which was my travel day, but then I have 4th, 5th, 6th in Seattle, and then the 7th we drove to Portland, 7th, 8th, 9th in Portland, and then the 10th we flew to San Francisco, 11th, 12th, and then there was a day that was kind of like half San Francisco, half Yosemite, which was the 13th. I decided to put it here because it was mostly just like a road trip day. And so I just put it here, even though I'm going to put the photos that were from the San Francisco part in San Francisco, and the afternoon, evening that was part of Yosemite in Yosemite. That's fine. So then I have the 14th, 15th, 16th, and then the 17th. We just flew home. So I'm not necessarily going to put anything about that. Maybe one photo at the end. So that is where I am so far in the album. What I'm going to do now is take you guys over to my computer and talk through my photo process, and I'm going to work on editing and picking photos, at least for these main sections. I will walk you through part of how I'm doing it on the computer. I'm not going to walk through the whole thing, and I'm going to start getting some of those in the album. I'm not sure if I'll come back and show you how that is in the album yet. That might be part of the next video, so we'll see how that goes. But now I'm going to take you over to the computer and talk through that process. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys over to my computer screen, and I'm going to try something a little different for this one. So bear with me. So I'm going to bring you through some of my photo editing process on the computer, and I'm going to insert a slide, here you go, to show you my steps for editing photos and putting them in an album. This might not work for you, but this is my process, and hopefully this can give you some tips that you can use for your editing process as well. I am not going to share most of my photo editing process on the computer, primarily because, well, it would be very repetitive and boring, and also because a lot of my photos from this vacation have my boyfriend in them, and he does not want to appear on the internet, so it's hard for me to edit them out of the computer process, but I am hoping that this will give you a little bit of a look into my process. Okay, so let's go through these steps one by one. So the first step is to select all my favorite photos from my destination. So I will say that steps 1 and 2, I do these right after the vacation. So I didn't just do that right now. I did these way back last year when I took this vacation. And I do that because I use this for all of my projects. So I put photos from my travel in my travel journal. I put them in my project life. I put them on Instagram. I put them in my take a note, and I put them in my travel album. So way back when when I went on this trip, when I got home, I did these first 2 steps right away. So what I did was I selected all my favorite photos from the destination. I am someone who does not like to delete photos, so I keep pretty much every single photo, but I don't edit all of them. What I do is I narrowed it down to my favorites, and then I edit all of those favorites using a uniform treatment. So I use the Color Story app, and I love the magic hour filter and adjust the curves to get the photos how I want. You can bulk edit photos on there. And sometimes I edit one or two separately just based on the photo and how it looks. But that way I'm able to get all of them edited ahead of time, and I save all those to my computer right after the vacation, and they're already saved onto my computer based on date, just like I organize all of my photos. So now I'm getting started on the steps that I'm doing now. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a duplicate of all of my favorite photos in a separate place on my computer. And that's part of what you're seeing me do here on my computer. So what I mean by this is I want to save a digital copy of everything that I took on this vacation forever. I like to have those backup digitals. I'm not just going to put in my album and get rid of the digital, but I'm going to make a duplicate of all of those in a separate spot because these are the ones I'm going to edit and then delete so that I know what's already in my album. So this is a really important step so that you don't accidentally delete something from your hard drive. So once I create that duplicate, I have a folder for each of the destinations that we went to, and I'm going to delete photos that I know I don't want to include in my album and duplicates. So sometimes photos get duplicated. They just get copied twice because maybe I edited it twice. Once I edited it for Instagram stories while we were traveling, and then I did it again, or my boyfriend texted it to me. And then there's also ones that I know I don't want to include. I take an outfit photo every day on vacation to share on Instagram. I've used that in past albums. I'm not going to put those in this album, so I'm deleting those ones right away. And then I want to sort any photos into folders that I want for specific themes. So in this album, I have planned to do a page per destination about the food. So I'm putting all of the food photos in a separate folder so that I can pull from them for that spread rather than have them for all of my spreads. So these steps, I'm taking care of all of these first, and I'm narrowing down the number of photos I have left to try to fit into my album. So for this album, the only special themed page I'm doing are the food photos, but you could definitely do something like from where I'm standing and all the photos of your feet. If you got a lot of like texture photos, you could do that. You could do photos of a sunset, whatever it is that it's kind of like a repeated theme, but it also depends on how you want to lay out your album. So when I sketched out my album in part 1 of this video series, I included that food page. So if you struggle to narrow down your photos, I highly recommend to create more of these themed pages because it helps you kind of pick the photos in a specific spot and to have like a smaller menu of photos to choose from, because choosing from like 500 photos is really daunting. But if you have, like 30 food photos and you only have to pick some of those, that's not nearly as stressful. Other thing you can see me doing here is I'm just going through it and deleting any photos that are the same, or sometimes I'm deleting ones that are similar, but for me, I have some that were like the exact same photo, just got copied twice because I edited it while I was traveling to share on Instagram, and then I edited it again as part of my favorite photo selection, and that is an imperfect piece of my process, but it's okay. I'm just deleting those, and it's minimizing the number of actual photos I have to select from. You could also use this time to delete anything that seems similar. So if you took, the same photo in 3 different shots, you can delete all except for one because you're not going to want to put all of those into your album. At this point, I'm doing that, but I am leaving ones where I have it one vertical, one horizontal, because I do tend to like to keep those in the album or in my album selection because I don't know yet if I'm going to want to put it vertically or horizontally. And I will go through that process in a little bit because I will ultimately add those extras into a separate folder. You'll see that coming up soon. Okay, so now we're actually going to start editing and printing our photos. And I'm going to go through my process for that a little bit here. So I use Photoshop. You do not need Photoshop. There are a lot of programs out there. This is just the one that I'm going to share my process for. And so I'm starting now to pick my photos. I recommend starting with the large statement photos first and working down from there. So I have 3 7 by 8.25 photos per destination and 1 14 by 8.25 photo per destination. So I'm going to pick those ones first. And you'll see right now coming on the screen, I picked to do the public market sign in Seattle for my starting photo. And I cropped that down to the 7 by 8.25 size, and I printed it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take anything that looks similar to that photo and I'm going to move it to a separate folder of duplicates, because those are ones that I'm probably not going to want to put in my album. I don't need 2 photos of the same sign. I might come back to that album and say, you know what, actually I need an extra filler photo and pull from it. So I'm not deleting them, but I am going to put them in a separate folder. So a key piece here is that I'm actually moving these photos out of my folder. And this is why we're using duplicates and not your original copy, because when I move these into this folder here that is for, I guess, dupes or duplicates, then I have less photos in my main folder for Seattle. So I'm narrowing down the number of photos I have left to choose from to put into my album. And ideally at the very end, when I am done printing my photos for Seattle, this folder will have nothing left in it, because I will have put everything in the album, or I will have deleted it and determined I don't need it. So I'm still just going through here and looking at which ones are similar to this public market center sign that I need to move to that duplicates. And then I'm going through and trying to select the other large photos I want to include. And what I do is I settle on one photo of me at the national park, at Olympic National Park. So we spent 2 days in Seattle, and then we spent a day going to the 2 local national parks. And so here you can see those national park photos. I have this photo of me, and I'm going to open this one up into my Photoshop, and I'll walk you through my process for editing this photo. So what I'm going to do is, first, you can see I have it opened here. I'm going to crop it to 7 by 8.25. And you can kind of see at the top, the crop tool is listed out, and I'm doing those dimensions because that is the size that I want to print this out to. So this photo is now way too large because the digital copy is way larger than 7 by 8.25, but I'm going to make it 7 by 8.25. And what I did, or what I'm doing now, is I am shifting where that box is on the screen. So you could see it would probably look a little more natural for me to be centered in the photo, but I'm not going to center me in the photo. Instead, I am going to, actually I'm resizing it first. So I'm going to shift it so that I have space on the bottom, so that I can cut out and add journaling. And you'll see that on my desk later. So what I did was I resized the photo so it's 7 inches wide. So now I can get a realistic idea of how many inches that like stone wall is going to be, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a journaling spot and put it on the photo, and I need a place to put it. So I'm trying out having more sky space versus having more stone, and I ultimately decide to have more stone because I don't want my journaling to cover up the mountains in the background, and instead it might cover up my leg a little bit, and that's totally fine with me. So then I'm going to make sure that this is sized to 7 by 8.25 and 300 dots per inch. And then I'm going to go to print. And actually, first I'm going to save it. So what I'm doing is, you can see I'm saving all of my photos with the measured dimensions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the original. And again, this is not the original. This is in my duplicates folder for this project. And that way I'll know that this photo is already in the album. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and print this so you can see my options for printing. Because this is a pretty large photo that I'm going to print here, I don't need to print it on any background or anything. I'm just going to print it by itself. So I'm just going to hit print. And then I'm going to go to my printer options. I'm going to make sure that I have US letter sized because that's the size paper I'm using, and that I don't have borderless printing selected. And then I'm going to resize or select the right photo paper type and quality. So I use luster photo paper. So that's what I selected. And I also made sure that it was high quality. Now you can see I'm going to delete this photo from that folder. And then what I'm going to do, here you can see I'm dragging it. I think I am. I am trying to drag it and drop it to delete it. And then this one is a duplicate because it is a similar photo. I'm not going to want both of those in the album. So I moved it to that dupes, and now I have eliminated 2 photos to select from for this specific section in my album. And I'm just going to go ahead and print that photo like I did, and then I need to go through and make my selections for the other large photos. This is the same process I'm going to do for all of the photos, and then after I do the big ones, I'll go move down to doing the smaller ones through the same process and continuing to narrow down. Here you can see I'm kind of going through my options for the other large photo. Again, one of the other large photos is going to have something else on top of it because that's what I've sketched out in my plan. So I'm going through that process. I'm not going to share the rest of my computer process, but I hope that this was enough to give you a look at what I'm doing on the computer and how this is going to work for me in selecting all of my photos for my album. And here are those photo editing steps again, in case you want to screenshot this or write them down. You can just pause the video here to capture this list. Okay, I'm back from my computer and I have printed some of my Seattle photos. I have the ones that I had already printed at the beginning of this video, which I showed you part of that process on the computer. And I printed a couple more. So these are all of the large photos that I plan to use in this album. And I think what I want to do is I actually want to go ahead, crop these out, punch holes, and put them in the album, even though I'm not going to adhere them back to back with anything yet, because I want to kind of get a feel for how things are going to look in the album and what else I need to add. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now and with some music, and then I will pop right back on. So I have the start of Seattle in here, and I'm just going to kind of walk through this with you along with my plan here so you can kind of see what we have going on. So I have the start of Seattle is right here. I have space right here. I can put something. I have my opening photo, which I'm just picking a photo that I feel is a good one to blow up and be representative of the destination. Then I have the dot paper in here, which I'm going to build on top of this using this card right here. And I'm also going to add some photos here, which I'm going to probably work on those in the next video. I also have, I think, like this maybe to put on here, something like this. So what I think I'm going to do is make this the journaling for day one. And because I've got 3 journal spots, so we'll continue going through here and you'll see what I mean. So I have a photo from day 1 here. And then here is another journaling spot so I can have my journaling for day 2, a photo. I'm going to do a layout with some photos on here and put the memories card. And I'm not sure what I'm going to put on here yet. I could put either a smaller photo or I could put some more words. I don't know yet. And then I have my full page photo, which happens to be from day 2 for Seattle. I'm not necessarily going to pick a photo from day 2 because I want the best photo for this spread, but I think it might actually work out to be the photo from day 2 for all of them, because for Portland, day 2 is Cannon Beach, and for San Francisco, day 2 is the Golden Gate Bridge. So it might work out, but we'll see. And then it won't be for Yosemite, but that one's going to be a little different. So then I have a photo on the back, and this one, I'm going to take this card and cut it out. And you saw on the computer, I think I showed that part, where I measured this and like I cropped this photo with the mountains really close to the top, so this will fit here. And I can put my journaling about day 3. Now this photo is actually from day 2, but I was just printing a couple photos, just to kind of get an idea for how I wanted to do things. So I'm thinking that this page I'm going to try to have go with day 3. And then here I'm going to do my food story with some food photos. So I think, well, and then on the back, sorry, just to finish it out, I have my last photo, which is just going to be another photo I want large with this, where I can put another photo and some journaling inside. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, obviously I have a lot more space in each of these days. Like this is all I have in here so far for Seattle, to add in more inserts and pages. So what I need to do is kind of get all of my photos printed. And so for like day 1, I'm going to have some photos here, and then I have this photo. I obviously am going to have more photos that I want to include from day 1 that will just fit on this spread. So I will add in some inserts, and I will probably pull some ephemera out to create those. And then for day 2, I have this. I've got a spot for a photo here. I'm going to have photos here. And then I have my large spread. And then for day 3, I have this and this. So I'm thinking I'm going to need a few more page protectors or inserts to add to the rest of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. And off camera, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did for Seattle for the other destinations in terms of printing the large pages and getting the large pieces in here. And then what I will do in the next video is start tackling my words and my photos and start working on how I want to really lay out all those additional inserts, and probably go through my ephemera and see what kind of things I want to make out of that and how I want to put the rest of these pages together. So thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that this video gave you some insight into my process and how I narrow down and select photos for my travel albums and get started with the process. And I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Let me know down below if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to see in the next iteration of this travel series. I think I'm gonna probably take a couple weeks off from this travel series because I'm going to Stationery Fest, and then I also have some like new planner stuff coming out because it's planner season. But I will definitely be back fairly soon with an update on this album. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.